There we go. Hey everybody.
Hey.
Welcome to another Carcast. This is a Carcast pit stop with my lovely guest, Candice.
Hello.
So we actually met from one of the videos that I actually posted with my good friend Yazid, and we were talking about sex, porn, and male programming, and it's one of those conversations and topic I believe is really dear to a lot of people, whether in your relationship, if you're not. Growing up, we're taught so many different things, and to see the world in a different way, and we're never really given the idea or the wisdom that we have the choice to choose what we want. That what they're saying is just an idea that we can entertain, but it doesn't mean that that has to be who we are and how we grow up. That we constantly live and we have a choice. So when I posted that, Candice left a message and I wrote back, and we decided to meet up. Really nice energy, very good vibe, and we just kind of wanted to share our conversation with the rest of you, so here we go.
Yeah, so it was something that we both really connected on, and from different perspectives. And we talked about many different things. We talked about relationships, we talked about guilt and shame, and I think a big thing we talked about too was programming, right? So, you know, what you mentioned in your previous video was that you started watching porn at a young age. And I think like so many people, most millennials do. And I remember the first time I was exposed to porn, I was like 10 years old.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa, people's bodies could do that? Right? I'm like, can I do that? And that was it. I didn't see it for a long time after. But I used to be a teacher, and I worked with so many teenagers. I've worked with so many boys and girls. And through teaching and running after-school programs, I've really learned that porn and the images that were shown on the internet, they really influence us more than we realize.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I had this light bulb go off when I was running an after-school boys program because I was getting catcalled as a teacher. Yeah. Oh. So I had to like kind of crash their boys group and like start breaking down stereotypes and start talking about what they're seeing and why they have the views that they do of women and why they think it's okay to objectify women. But I kind of want to rewind because women watch porn too, and we also do this to men, and this is not something that people talk about very often.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, well, so we talked about my relationship and how porn affected my relationship, and yeah, it's something I ran it by my partner first because I wanted to be respectful of him.
Always, yes.
But, you know, porn really negatively affected our relationship in the sense that, you know, it became addictive for my partner and things kind of came crashing down. And at first I was really upset with him, obviously, and I was, you know, judgmental and I was blaming and I was shaming because I'm not perfect, and I was like, you just rocked my world, right? Like, what's going on? But then I took like 10 steps back and fell back to a previous relationship that I was in where my partner was away for a long period of time for work, and I started watching a ton of porn. This isn't something we talked about earlier, so I'm being super vulnerable here. But I think I kind of borderline had a bit of a porn addiction when I was in my early 20s. And what happened when I was going through that was I no longer was attracted to my partner because I saw all of the images and the bodies and the videos, and like I saw like all these other people that I could be with, and I was living in this fantasy world for a little while. And I never cheated on him, I never like did anything crazy, but it affected my relationship because I like sexually didn't want anything to do with him. And so fast forward years later, that's kind of what happened to my partner. So I think it's a really sour topic for a lot of people, and sometimes it's something that people don't want to look at, but it affects our relationships and it affects our psyche more than we realize too. What do you think?
my belief is also that a lot of media messes us up. We watch TV shows, we watch movies, we watch all these things, and we believe that we must live up to it. This is the way life is. And we start to kind of absorb the things that are surrounding us without realizing, and I really wish my teachers told me this when I was a kid. Define your words and you'll define your world. So what does this word mean to you? Like, I don't know if anybody watched this, but when we were younger, there was that movie called The Notebook. The Notebook destroyed my life for a long time. Great movie. But when I was younger, that movie came out. And when that movie came out, all the girls in my classroom were like, I want love like that. And I'm like, no, you don't. So like they were in relationships with guys and like they made it difficult and they made it hard because they were trying to fulfill this idea of how the movie portrayed love, because they're like, that's how it is. That's how it was for them. But that's not how it is for everybody. So by them leaving and learning and portraying relationships in that way, it made it very difficult for a lot of males to connect. And then a lot of males thought, well, maybe that's the way that love should be. And then all of a sudden it's just like they're living 10, 20, 30 years into it and they're like, oh my God, I didn't even realize I'm playing a part from a movie that I watched a long time ago. So yeah, it does mess us up. And porn, I remember when I first watched porn, I was disgusted.
Yeah.
I was young and I'm like, what the hell is this? I turned it off, I'm like, ugh. But then I'm like, I turned it back on, I'm like, huh? And I'm like, no. I don't know, but like all my friends were like, watch porn, porn's the thing to do. But like I really felt, I don't know, at a young age it made me feel disgusted. I didn't resonate with it, but I forced myself to watch it because that was the norm with the men. We need to do this is what men do. It's so interesting at a young age, like this is the mantra, this is what boys do, this is what men do, this is what life is, do this. And you're like, this is my mantra, repeat. But you're like, I'm saying these words and I'm doing these things, but I feel so out of sync with everything. And eventually you get so far down the rabbit hole with it, you really forget where you started and your initial feelings. And it can lead you into places that you think are normal in life, but you realize, and I hope a lot of people do later on, realize that there's no normality. Normality is insanity. Yeah. Craziness is sane.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with that journey, it's literally, they call it a TV program because you're programming yourself. Computer programs, you're constantly programming yourself, and we don't realize how programmed we are. That the whole idea of the internet was connection. People are supposed to connect, but we're supposed to connect in very beautiful, authentic, gorgeous ways, and that's my personal opinion. But sometimes from movies, because movies want rating, TV shows want rating, that they twist it up and they make life so much more complicated than it needs to be, and then we believe that this is how life is. So, have you ever watched a Spanish soap opera?
I think maybe when I was a kid.
Well, my grandmother watches that. If you sit with my grandmother, she's like, oh, the neighbor's cheating on them and they're doing this, and I'm just like, she watches.
I hear you.
Right?
My nanny used to do that with Coronation Street because we're British, so.
They get so into it, and it's just like it becomes the world, and then it's like, and you're just like I sit with my grandma, like, oh, it's pretty crazy. Like somebody has to stop allowing her to watch these soap operas, but then we don't realize what we're watching and how we're doing it, how we're tuning in onto social media, and what we're programming in our head, that like sometimes to reconnect we have to disconnect, and we have to detoxify ourselves.
Absolutely, because what we subscribe to becomes our reality, whether we realize it or not.
I like how you use that word, because on YouTube you subscribe to something.
Right.
Yeah,
so we have to be so consciously aware of the material that we are digesting. We're watching it, we're listening to it, but it's just like when you put something on your skin, your body is absorbing that, right? It's like when you eat food, your body is absorbing and digesting that. It's the same thing with information. It's the same thing with video content, with written content, with photos, anything. So, yeah.
So when you were growing up and you've been in your relationships and you've had a lot of experience with this, can you tell me your definition between what is lust and what is love? Are they the same thing, or?
No, I love this question because I was actually really reflecting on love. And so I think a lot of the times when people think about love or they say I love you, it's something that they project onto somebody else as if they can be an object. So I think that gets misconstrued sometimes. I think people forget that love is a verb, right? And they treat love as a noun. So love is a choice, and it can be projected or used with somebody else, or you can use it as a verb inwardly. So you can make a choice to love yourself, to do kind things for yourself, to use kind words for yourself or for somebody else, right? To do loving things, to show somebody else that you care, to speak your truth, to be truthful in your interactions with other people, right? And I also think it's something bigger than just a verb. I think it's something that we're all connected to that we forget, right? We're all souls. We just have bodies. And so when you connect to your soul and your higher self, you're connecting to love energy, right? So it's a verb, but it's also an energy. And I think that lust is something, it's more physical. It's more tangible, right? And it's easy to lust after, a piece of chocolate or a person. And it's something that can really quickly become unbalanced if you let it. So I feel like love, like true love, is more balanced, and I feel like lust is something that can very easily, you can very easily spiral out of control with it. Yeah, does that make sense?
It makes sense. I also, I believe that a lot of times we'd say that, it was love at first sight, but sometimes I believe that it was lust at first sight.
I 100% agree with that. It's really easy to be attracted to many different people.
There's a lot of beautiful people in this world.
Absolutely. But love goes so much deeper than that. It's something that gradually is built over time, I think.
100%. I believe that we get so infatuated with, it's like we meet somebody at the beginning and then we're like, oh my God, you feel this amazing feeling and you're like, that's love, that's what it is. It's like, in fact, I consider it to be kind of infatuation and all this stuff, and you're getting to know the person, but then eventually that goes away and then you're like, oh no, I'm not in love with the person.
Right.
Now, in some cases I can agree, but in a lot of cases it's, the honeymoon period is over. Now comes the real relationship.
Right, yeah.
And a lot of people, they're like, no, I need to find that feeling. They're continuing to chase an addiction. I know I've done that in my relationships.
Oh, for sure. And I think, I like that you mentioned chase an addiction, because that's kind of, I think with, how the dating world is right now with apps like Tinder and Bumble, and I don't know, I've actually never been on a dating app.
I've been on them.
But I have friends who have, like everyone has. So anyways, what you're actually chasing is that dopamine rush and the rushes of serotonin. So lust is actually very much related to hormones and chemicals in our bodies, right? And so that's a huge difference. So you're going to have that attraction, obviously, with the person you fall in love with and end up with at the beginning, but that waxes and it wanes, right? So can you ride that wave where you're not feeling attracted to your partner in a certain moment, but you love them anyways, and you bring it back, like you bring yourself back. Why did I end up with this person in the first place? Why did I want to be with this person, even though they're being ugly right now?
I really believe, once again, that before you go on Tinder and Bumble and Hinge and Grindr and all the other apps that are out there, take a moment and really ask yourself, what's your intention? Like, what do you really want? Like, be honest and be open with yourself. Like, do you just want booty calls? Do you really want to find a relationship? And then go into it. Instead of confusing yourself of, oh, I want a relationship, but you really want something lustful, and write down the characteristics of the people that you want to be with. This is what I want in a partner. The problem with Tinder and Bumble, when I was using it, just like, swipe, swipe, swipe. Oh my God. And then it's like I have like 100 matches and I have all these people, and then it's just like
a buffet.
But what I did, my personal thing was, I would never get close enough to one girl because there was another girl and another girl, and I'm like, well, I'll keep this one at a distance, and I'll get to know this one, and I'll keep this one at a distance. Now, don't get me wrong. I believe that you should date multiple people. And what I mean by date multiple people, not sexually, but get to know multiple people, because maybe one will be your best friend, maybe somebody won't work out. But I believe to get to know a lot of people, and then later on you'll be like, this is exactly what I want. So to put yourself out there.
Right.
With the girl that I was seeing, I kept her at a distance in the sense that I'm like, well, maybe there's something else out there. And then I was playing this game with her that I thought that I would succeed at, and you know what? She succeeded the best at it, because she ended up being with somebody, and I'm like, oh, to be beaten at your own game and to realize that you were playing a game, it was just like, what was I doing?
So where did that game mentality come from then, for you?
See, the game mentality came from was when you play with these games like Tinder and Bumble and abundance, you'll see that one is not enough. Maybe there's something better. Maybe it's something better. There will always be something better if that's the way you look at it. But what was the best for me? What you want and what you need are two different things. And the thing is, I kept on looking at the desire, the lust, the things that I wanted, instead of realizing that right in front of me I had everything that I needed. And only when I got close to losing it did I realize that it's like that saying, you don't know what you have until it's gone. And as much as it's sad, and I hope not everybody experiences that, but some of us have to experience that to really wake us up and be like, holy, what have I really been doing? I almost lost the most important thing in my life. And then you have to go through the constructs of, well, society says if they do this, you must do that. Well, I'm not society, I'm me. Right?
Yeah, and that's something we talked about earlier before we hit record. So, unfortunately, in my relationship, certain things led to infidelity. And that's not something that I ever thought I could forgive. And because, I'm an empowered woman, and I won't let anybody treat me like this, and people who cheat are bad, and once a cheater, always a cheater. And these are these constructs that we're often brainwashed with. And we were talking about how heavily I had to weigh everything, because I had to look at my situation and see that my partner is literally everything I've ever wanted in a partner. And he treats me well, and he supports me, and he cares very deeply for me, and he would do anything for me. And so I really had to separate myself from my friends, from my family, and even from myself and who I knew myself to be. And it took me about a year to really make that final choice, like, am I going to stay with this person? But what I learned through that process is sometimes people make mistakes. Sometimes people make really bad mistakes because they're lacking something within themselves. And at the end of the day, we're all human, and we're all lacking something, and we could all improve something, and we all have flaws. So am I going to throw this amazing human being away because he made some bad choices, because he had an addiction problem? Because like many men and women, he's been programmed by the porn industry and the fashion industry and the beauty industry, right? So, or am I going to stand by him because he's willing to roll up his sleeves and do the work? And I used to think that if you stay with someone who cheated, it makes you weak. But I really had to dig deep, and it actually showed me my strength. And it actually ended up being a blessing in disguise for me, because it allowed me to break down all of these constructs that I had subscribed to throughout my life, and it allowed me to understand myself on a deeper level. And I, had to go through the whole emotional process of like losing weight and gaining weight and finding myself and losing myself and like, who am I as a woman, right? All these things. But at the end of the day, it actually really helped me find my self-worth. And yeah, I think that I hope that people start talking about these issues more, because I think there's so much shame around these things, and I think that people don't have compassion a lot of the times when people make these mistakes. And trust me, there were times where I didn't have compassion and I was like, I turned into an evil witch. But at the end of the day, I was able to work through that and find compassion. And yeah, we just have such a deeper connection now and a deeper relationship and so much more respect.
I think you hit on really good points. Not that I think I know you do. And these mantras of once a cheater, always a cheater, and then it's an X for a reason. And listen, yes and no. Because I believe that if it resonates with you and you truly, you truly believe that, and you know the reason and everything, then you do what's great for you. But if it doesn't resonate with you and you're arguing and you're fighting with it, then go a little deeper, like you did, and find out. Because you know what? We do make mistakes, and you know, a lot of times it has to do with communication. A lot of times it has to do with communication and not sharing. The one thing is like your expectations. Well, I have an expectation of how I want this relationship to be, but I'm not going to tell you. And if you don't live up to it, I'm going to get really upset at you. And then you're going to be like, why are you upset? I'm going to be like, I don't know. And then vice versa. The man will do that to the woman and back and forth. And it's just like, be open, be honest. And what we were saying before is, it's not your problem. It's not my problem. It's a problem.
Right.
How do we deal with this?
Right.
Instead of trying to blame or win an argument or negotiation and be like, yes, I'm right, nobody's right if there's only one right, nobody's wrong. Just find what the problem is, and maybe you guys can solve it and move on together. Maybe you can't, but at least in your future relationships, future stuff, you'll be able to understand that and know that in a relationship, you don't own anybody. And sometimes you feel like, but you're my property. How could you do that to me? It's just like, whoa, get over yourself.
Right.
They need to do what they need to do. They need to understand this is a journey of growth. People change. If you ever go to someone and be like, how dare you change? It's the only thing we do. It's the only constants in this world.
Absolutely. I'm really glad that you brought that up, because I think one way that humans in general just get in our own way is we have these ideas of who we are as individuals. We have ideas of who our parents are, of who our siblings are, who our friends are, who our life partners are, our teachers. And these ideas become so fixed in our minds. And we forget that people change, sometimes right under our noses, and we don't even realize it.
Yep.
But that's just part of human evolution. And so I think that when we can allow space for people to change and grow and bring awareness to the fact that that's inevitable, we can have more healthy relationships with, boundaries that are healthy but not controlling, and less judgment and criticism and more acceptance. Imagine how much healthier society would be if we just started openly talking about these issues. And I know it's hard to communicate sometimes, but just creating a space or a foundation of respect and knowing that when you enter a partnership, the other person will inevitably change. So learning to be more flexible and fluid. And I'm not condoning behavior that's negative or toxic. I want to bring awareness to that too, because I certainly wouldn't have stayed with my partner if it was toxic. I certainly wouldn't have stayed with him if he was going to continue the behavior that he was, doing. I wouldn't have stayed with him if a multitude of things hadn't been creating a safe container for me, to move forward with him. But I think we do need to start having these discussions more. Yeah.
These discussions, I believe, are very, 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 very important. Because one, by you giving yourself permission to talk about this, you give other people permission to talk about this. Two, there's no shame and blame in any of this. There's no 100% right situation that, well, this is how it had to be. I'm stupid because it didn't, you're good. You're good. Life happens. We live, we learn, we understand from it. And understand that you got to speak your truth.
For sure. And I think it's important too, because I'm sure at some point somebody who has committed adultery will watch this video. And I know, through having conversations with my partner, how much guilt and shame he carried, and I think sometimes still carries. And at the end of the day, if you keep carrying that guilt and shame, that gets toxic too. So, you know, we need to also learn how to find forgiveness for ourselves when we make mistakes.
And we really, really need to break free of constructs that we have in our head. That the word that we take out is supposed. It's supposed to be like this. Women are supposed to be like that. Men are supposed to be like this. No. The way I am a male, but I'm not supposed to be the way that my friend's supposed to be. I'm going to be the way that I am, and I'm going to change, and I'm going to discover new things about myself, and that's part of my journey, just like you're going to do the exact same thing with yourself.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Oh, no, I love that, because it's funny, when I first came out and opened up about what I was experiencing in my relationship, a lot of my friends said, well, if you forgive him and he does this again, then it's on you. And you're supposed to leave when somebody disrespects you in this way, right? And it's like, well, one, no, if I choose to forgive someone and they make the same mistake again, that's not on me, that's on them. So if you have been in a situation where you've been on my end, know that it has nothing to do with something that you did wrong or like who you are as a person. Yes, there might be foundational issues in a relationship, but it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you physically, you know, your personality, anything like that. So it's not that. But yeah, for me, this idea of what I'm supposed to do in this situation really haunted me, and it just made the decision so much more difficult because I had everybody imposing their opinions on me. Supposed.
It's like, we're not supposed to do anything. What we're supposed to do is live, love, and grow, show compassion for ourselves and those around us. That the idea that, well, if he did it once, he's going to do it again. Well,
it's not always true.
Nope. And sometimes that strengthens relationships and makes them so much better and can lead to the most beautiful things. And sometimes it doesn't. But are you willing to take full accountability on your end? Are you willing to trust yourself? Are you willing to really go into this journey and let it manifest and go the way that you want it to go? Or are you going to listen to the TV programs and the friends that aren't in relationships and like all these other people that are the experts at things that they're not even doing in their own lives? It's just like, or are you going to do you?
Yeah, the one major lesson, I mean, I took so many lessons from my situation, but the biggest lesson I got from it was listen to your own heart. Not your mind, not your ego. Listen to your heart. Because your heart will never lie to you. Never.
It's good. It's like really listen to your own heartbeat. If it literally beats for you. The one thing that will never lie to you in this world is your breath. Your breath will always know the truth. And to take time and to sit with it and to breathe with it. You know, whether you're into mindfulness, you're into meditation, you're into journaling, when situations happen, break free of your friends, your family, those that surround you. And I'm not saying that if you need the support, you should move away from it, but take a moment and really honor yourself, connect with yourself, and see what you are feeling, what you want, why this triggers you, before everybody tells you the reasons why you're feeling the way that you're feeling, because nobody will understand you better than you will understand yourself. You can go to coaching programs, you can go to mentors, you can go to anything, but all they're trying to do is ask you questions that you have the answers for.
It's true.
But the ones that tell you the answers without asking the questions, then you need to be able to take a break and understand that they are just projecting their life onto you, and what you're doing is you're absorbing it. Take those moments, connect with yourself. Understand that there's no supposed to. That if things happen, there's no construct, that we need to break free of this, that the blame, the shame, relationships are like this, things have to be like this. No, nothing has to be anyway. Everything has to be the way you want it to be, the way you want to create it, by defining, by understanding, listening to your words, and honestly, like, just doing you. Like, I really wish teachers in school would just be like, do you.
That's why I couldn't be a teacher, truthfully. Yeah, but that's a topic for another day, I guess. But when I was teaching, I really did try to hold space for kids to gain a deeper understanding of who they are and what they really wanted in life. And I did always make a point to say it doesn't matter if you're not good at math. It doesn't matter if you get a bad grade. It doesn't matter if you're not meeting somebody's expectations. And you can apply that to anything in life. You need to, like, if you know, your parents' expectations, your friends' expectations, especially in terms of relationship, people need to start going inward and learning how to tune out the noise, right? So that you can listen to your breath, listen to your heart, and just do you. Because one relationship is not going to look the same as the next relationship. Because, like, you're such a different human being than I am. And, you know, like, we're two totally different people. And your partner is different and my partner is different. How could any one relationship look like another relationship?
I can't. And I'm not you and you're not me. And our experiences and our lives and everything are different. Is this easy? But the easy thing always leads to harder things later on in life. And in the relationship, you know, the idea of, is it lust? Is it love? Are you really being present? You know, in the other conversation about porn, it's just, you watch it, and it's just like, you're with the person that you love, but you're not present. And then I remember, like, I was with them, and then I would have to go, after they left, I'd have to watch porn so I could satisfy myself and satisfy the lust. But it was like just for that 10, 5, 3 seconds, whatever it was, I was just like, oh, and I'm like, oh.
And where's the deeper connection in that?
But it's all this energy that I'm just extending out for no reason. And then, like, not being able to connect with people because wiring the brain to look at women of, like, you're a pleasure toy. This is how it wants to be. This is the way that relationships should be. This is how men should treat women. Fantasies of going to the doctors and then going to the teachers, and it's just like, oh, I can have sex with this woman anytime and do whatever I want, and you take away the humanity from humans. Porn creates fantasy while we live in reality. And I'm not saying imagination is bad, but when you try to put your fantasy and project it onto other people, sometimes you can cause a lot of issues and harm into yourself. Because what do we want in life? To feel seen, heard, and understood. We want people to listen. We want to feel human. We want to feel these things that porn takes away, because it's very focused on pleasure. And then it can take away from your relationship and take away from other things.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that porn focuses on pleasure, because there's also many different facets to this. Porn also focuses on pain.
Oh yeah, you're right.
You know,
yeah.
There's S&M, there's like all these...
BDSM and all that stuff.
And it's like, imagine that that's a 10-year-old girl's first experience seeing a sexual interaction between a man and a woman, or a man and a man, or a woman and a woman, whatever, right? Or multiple people, doesn't matter. But imagine it is grounded in harm and harming another person, or violence, right? What message is that sending to that young person, that this is what love is, right? And that's where that lust and love get confused, for one, but also they take that in, and that creates a pattern in your brain, right? It creates an impression in your brain.
I believe, talk to kids.
Yeah.
Like in class, it's just the teacher's like, this is a condom. This is a banana. I'm going to put this on here. I'm now going to show you a video of a very awkward situation between a guy and a girl, and there's going to be a flash scene, and the girl's going to get pregnant. Watch out for STDs.
Yeah.
Well, it's like...
Why are we talking about pleasure? Why are we not talking about connectivity? Why are we not talking... Well, I mean, they're starting to talk about consent and things like that, which is great. It's a good starting point.
At least they're starting in one way, but it's just like... have classes where we talk about love and compassion, and I have friends that are teachers that are doing this, and I the educational system when I was a kid to where it's now, whole different thing. But the kids are going to go online and they're going to watch stuff, but give them the direction to look of compassion and love, and understand that there's no one way for things to be felt, and that don't feel shame or blame for wanting to be the way you want. experiment and go out there for sure, but also understand what is it that you're looking for, what is it that you want. And if you don't know and you go out and you try something and it wasn't what it was, well, that's life.
Right.
And that's learning and that's lessons.
For sure. Absolutely. Yeah. I also wanted to talk about briefly how porn destroys the frontal lobe of the brain. So because I went through what I went through in my relationship, we had to do a lot of learning, a lot of trust building, a lot of damage control, right?
Yeah.
So we did a lot of research, we worked with a psychotherapist, but through our whole experience we learned that it is scientifically proven that pornography destroys the frontal lobe in the same way that heroin, that crystal meth, that really hard addictive drugs do. And it has been designed, you know, obviously to be consumed. So it's been designed, like most things on, like social media, to be highly addictive, right? And so what happens when you're watching porn is you get spikes in dopamine and serotonin, so the feel-good hormones, and your brain becomes addicted to that. And the more you watch it, the more it destroys your frontal lobe. And you can look up brain scans of people who have watched lots of porn, right? It's actually very difficult to find people nowadays who have a brain who has not been subjected to porn, but you can find these scans and it's amazing to see what it does. And so what the frontal lobe is, it's your impulse control center of your brain, and it's where you have a filter. So no wonder people are, you know, we talk about rape culture and things like that. Well, no wonder people are going out and doing these crazy sexual acts in public, or harming people in colleges and universities or whatever, right? Like, because we're subjected to porn at such a young age, and it destroys our brain, and we think that's normal.
Oh my God! And the idea of like, you feel horny. Now, growing up, we get these feelings. That's fine. But every time you feel it, you watch porn. You feel it, you watch porn, and then eventually, it's like you're like an addict. I'm craving, and it's just like, oh my God, I feel so horny. There's a girl. It's just like, woof, and you're like, whoa, what did I do? You like lose control. Well, you programmed yourself to be that way.
Right.
And that's what it does. Like, all you need is 9 minutes every day to rewire your brain. So if you're watching porn for 9 minutes a day, you're actually telling your brain to focus on one way, to see things another way. This is how things are, and then this is what you need, so you can satisfy this need. And then all of a sudden, it's like when you finish for that 9 minutes, for the rest of the day, this is how you program yourself. This is what you see. People are not people. Women are objects that you can't get enough, that lust is the way to do it. It's just like you become like this pleasure. Like, pleasure is the only thing you need. And when you get it, you're like, why do I not feel satisfied? Because that's not what we want. You know, it's like I have a craving for chocolate cake, but if I eat too much chocolate cake, I feel sick.
Right.
Well, if you watch too much porn, you rewire your brain.
And your brain gets sick.
But the thing is, your brain doesn't get sick in that way. Your brain says, your brain creates a larger stomach. Well, I don't want chocolate cake. I actually want ice cream on a brownie with chocolate cake, and then a fudge sundae on top. And it's just like,
and now I want 2 of them.
It's never enough. You can never satisfy yourself.
Right.
So when you're saying it's just like you get sick, actually, you know what? I do agree with you. I'm sick of the chocolate cake. Now I want more.
Right.
And I want to make it more diverse, and I want a buffet of it, and I want these extra plates. And you realize that you treat your brain that you can never get satisfied. There's more and more and more point. Like, you watch it with 1, and then it's 3, and then it's this, and then all of a sudden it's just like you're creating these scenarios, and you can never get satisfied in that, and then you can get satisfied in the real world, and then in relationships you don't feel like you're getting enough, and it's this self-fulfilling prophecy that we're creating by rewiring our brain, when really that chocolate cake to begin with was just more than we actually ever needed.
Absolutely.
So yes, once again I apologize, and I do agree with that point that you said, because it is. We get sick of one, we go for more and more and more, instead of taking moments to enjoy what's in front of us.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's very subtle too. And I think that's one of the dangers of porn. It's so subtle. Because at first it's harmless. And for a lot of people it is harmless. Like, if you watch this and it doesn't resonate with you, that's totally cool.
100%,
You know, if you don't have a problem with it, but it's more like the addictive quality. I think that's what we're focusing on. And you know, addiction can be extended to many different things: gambling, shopping, drugs, alcohol, smoking, anything, relationships, anything. So again, if it doesn't resonate, that's okay too.
100%. I know that I had to go celibate for 14 months because I spoke about this before, but I crossed connection with penetration. So I thought when I was having sex, I was connecting with girls, but then afterwards, I felt so lonely and sad. And when they left, I'm like, why do I feel this way when I'm getting what I'm supposed to be getting? And I didn't realize that that's what I was doing to myself. And it ruined, it awoken me, we'll say, to what I want in a world and the relationships. And if you're doing the things that you think you should be doing, but yet you're feeling sad, depressed, or you're getting negative feelings from it, then what you think you should be doing is not what you should be doing. It's time to ask questions and to make some changes. And when I went celibate and I took that all away from me, I started to rewire my brain, and I started to see people as people, and I was having connections, and I actually started to show my brain what I wanted, and now I get more of it. And then when I'm in a lustful situation, I'm fully present, and it is some of the most beautiful moments, because your lust will last for 5 minutes, an hour, depending on you as an individual. But what about the 23 hours in the day that you spend with the person, or the months and the weeks and the other part? What about the large aspect of the ratio that's so much more important than just doing that? Well, as a kid, this is what we're taught, and this is what we chase, and this is what we do because we're curious and we want to learn. But as an adult, to learn these things at a young age, to have these conversations with children at a young age, to be more open about it, and to let them understand that there's no shame behind it, and to let them know that they will be doing this, and just to plant these seeds in their head really can open up a garden and a field of a place that can harvest some of the most beautiful things in the younger kids, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was probably one of my favorite parts of teaching, was running after school programs and alternative education programs, because we actually had an opportunity to have these real conversations with kids and break down gender stereotypes and gender roles, and break down ideas of what sex should be. I had girls coming up to me saying, "Can I use abortion as a form of birth control?" Like, that's such a difficult subject to navigate. But when you remove shame, when you remove judgment, and you also remove the hierarchy of teacher-student, right, or parent-child, and you just talk openly as a person to person, there's so much more room for life-changing moments.
But you said it right there, and the way that you handled it so good. It's like, can I do this? The student comes to the teacher, and the teacher opens up a space to entertain a conversation. Instead of the teacher being like, no, that's wrong, that's stupid, you open up a conversation and you allow them to actually want to ask more questions. Because as a kid, we don't know.
And most of the time we can't go to our parents, because
I wouldn't go to my parents.
Because most parents have stuff that they haven't dealt with.
Oh yeah.
Right? So gosh, I hope a teacher is watching this and is rethinking the way that they encounter these situations too, because
opening up a space for a student to ask a question instead of shaming and blaming them and just being like, well, tell me more about that. It really opens up a dialogue and a sense of trust with a lot of them. Listen, nowadays kids are going through social media. This is how it's supposed to be. We're going through this idea that our information is actually currency, and they're trying to send more and more because they believe that the more that they create, the more that they put out there, the richer they are, when inside they're feeling poor. And not all, but a lot of them that fake the outside and aren't true to the inside. It's like they're avoiding the conflict inside to make peace with everybody on the outside, and they're causing a war with inside themselves.
It's true. And I don't think that just happens with kids. I think it happens with adults, with people 100%. Our age. It happens all the time, and that's kind of the toxicity that is created by social media, or any kind of media.
And the thing is, the shame that we feel, it's like, well, I don't do this, but behind closed doors, it's like, I know when I was bulimic, I'm like, when they're talking about that, I'm like, I'm not doing that behind closed doors. I'm like, what's wrong with me? And I'm just like, I didn't even think about it like that, because there wasn't this open area. And like, a lot of times, if we feel that people are going to shame us, that there's not space for it, we'll do it. And we'll do it in a way that's so harmful for ourselves, because we get so deep into it. When conversations like this is what it's about. Let's talk about, like what we were talking about before and what you said. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about shame. Let's talk about love. Let's talk about infidelity. Let's talk about relationship. Let's talk about the part that other people aren't talking about. Because if you're thinking it and she's thinking it and I'm thinking it, then it's there. So why don't we normalize it in the sense that let's bring it out so people can understand it. They can,
and not have to carry so much guilt and shame. That's such a burden.
Oh man, just bring it out there and share it with people, because the thing is, when we share these things and we put it out there and we're okay with it, then they can't come back and harm us. But when we keep it inside and we have conversations, all of a sudden we're triggered and we're upset, and like all these things just really get to us and they really bother us because inside we just don't feel comfortable.
It's true. Carl Jung talks about the shadow, I'm sure. Yeah,
shadow.
And I really believe that when we take a light and we shine it on our shadows, that's sort of the beginning of us allowing ourselves to step out of the shadow so that it doesn't have to follow us around everywhere we go, so that we can live healthy, meaningful, deep, fulfilling, happy lives, right? Knowing that we all have a shadow, knowing that we all have skeletons in our closet, but actually being okay with looking at them and taking them out of the closet and dealing with them. And it's hard. It's not easy. Like, I talk about this. It was not easy to overcome the things that I overcame. And it also brought up a lot of my own skeletons and shadows that I hadn't looked at. But that's kind of one of the beautiful aspects of being alive, is we have these opportunities to do this deep work, so that not only we can create deep, meaningful relationships with others that are healthy and respectful and loving and passionate, but we can also do that for and with ourselves too.
I believe that if you grew up and you felt that you didn't have a space or a place where you could share and you can open this up, that now is the time that we create it. Now is the time we create it for ourselves, we create it for our friends, we create it for our children. Now is the time that we open up and we talk about the things that made us feel dumb or shameful, or things that we just thought made us crazy. Because I've had people that have committed suicide, and I've had a lot of people that have passed away in my life, and I know that if I were to put a lot of them in a room together and we were to actually talk about the things of why they want to kill themselves, they'd be like, you too?
Yeah.
Oh, me too. Oh shit, so I'm not crazy?
And I'm not alone.
Exactly. Because a lot of times we feel that we're alone and there's nobody else there, and then we indulge in the shame and we go further into porn, and then it's like the spiral of like everything's wrong with me, where it's just like, you know, it's the guy in the building next to you, he's doing the exact same thing and they're thinking the exact same thing, and it's just like the person in like the neighborhood, but like everybody's thinking these, but like we're like, no, we must be normal. Normal is insanity.
Yeah. There's no one size fits all in any situation in life.
No.
Especially in relationships.
To be perfect is to be you. You're already perfect. You're already the amazing everything that you are. But to be what you think other people want you to be, the truth is, you're not who you are, you're who you think other people think you are. Those people are thinking about what other people think they are. So literally everybody's thinking about all these other people. So it's like, if that's all happening and they're worrying what other people think, well, what happens if we start to focus on ourselves and stop worrying about what other people think? Because when we start to open up about what we are and who we are, then we start realizing it doesn't matter, because it's our life. I can't live my life anymore, and I say anymore, but I can't live my life anymore because I did for other people. I can't live my life up to other people's expectations, assumptions. I can't, not because I don't have the ability to, because it's too tiring.
It's painful. It's so painful to live that way.
To guess what you want other people to want you to be, no, man, I know what I want to be.
Yeah.
Well, I have my days.
Well, I mean, that's also constantly changing
Uh-huh.
because we're fluid.
We are fluid.
So
Just like this conversation was
yeah,
very fluid.
totally. Yeah.
It went everywhere, and you know, like the idea is to entertain conversations and just to let it flow. And listen, like, man, we are such simple yet complex beings. That we have feelings, we have emotions, that there's situations that happen in our lives, that there's no one way. If somebody did it their way, that's because it worked for them.
Mm-hmm.
But how you handle your situation,
It's not going to work for everybody.
No, it's
and
not.
that's okay. Because there are so many situations, too, that are toxic. And I really strongly feel like sometimes when people have things like what happened in my marriage happen, like you shouldn't stay with the other person, right? But just knowing that if you do, there's nothing wrong with that decision either. You have to do what's right for you.
100%. There's no wrong and rights in life. It's just you doing you. That's it.
And just experiencing life. You know, we all encounter situations in our lives that are going to shake us up and break up our foundation and make us question everything. And excite so much fear. But yeah, that's just part of living. And I think how we deal with these situations and how we overcome them and learn from them and turn those experiences into knowledge and wisdom and then help impart that knowledge and wisdom onto others if they're suffering. Like, this is the stuff that makes life beautiful.
I agree.
Yeah.
To be comfortable is a beautiful thing. But to find things that make you uncomfortable, so much more beautiful. You don't have to be all comfortable all the time, but ask yourself questions that once you get to a state where you're really comfortable, to have people, to meet people, to read books, to watch movies and things that question your reality is great because it allows more growth and more understanding. It's like, how do you really know what's going on in your life if you don't get another perspective? Because sometimes, and a lot of times, we get too close to ourselves. Too close to ourselves to see it, and this is the way that it is, instead of actually learning about different perspectives and asking questions and writing and journaling and understanding that there's so many different ways to do this. So
Yeah.
I appreciate conversations like this.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much for having me on the Carcast.
Thank you for reaching out. This was awesome.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So thank you everybody for tuning in. This was incredible. I will definitely be posting this in the future. And just remember, I say a lot is that you do have worth and you do have value and you are worthy of love, and that there's not one way of going about it, and you are just beautiful the way that you are, the way that you're living your life, and that this is hard, but you're not alone. There's people like me, there's people like her, there's a lot of people out there, and you can DM, you can reach out, and we just want to love and support and just honor people on their journey as well in life. So from my heart to yours, thank you so much for tuning in. Do you have anything to say for yourself?
Yeah, just know that if you are going through a tough time, if you're struggling in your relationship, if you're struggling with sexual addiction, pornography addiction, if you're struggling with any of those issues or anything else for that matter, know that you're not broken.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Know that you're not broken, and we are all flawed, and you're not alone, and you're not going to be in this place forever.
Nope.
And you have choices to make, and sometimes they're going to be difficult, but you will get through it. You will get through it, and
Yes,
there
you
are
will.
always people who you can reach out to, as difficult as it is. I mean, you can always reach out to me as well. You can find me on Instagram.
I'll share your information
Yeah.
for sure.
There are so many people going through what you're going through, more than we realize. So just know you're not alone, and you'll be okay.
You will be. So thank you once again. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you again soon. Bye. Okay. Now...